Our feature tonight is Naomi McCulloch, and because we think bios are for cowards, we like to ask our feature poets a couple of questions. So we asked Naomi, what is your favorite poem right now? Answer, Renaissance by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Why are you a poet? I was born into it. My grandma and great-grandma were also poets. What advice would you give someone attempting to write their first poem? Feel and be unashamed to explore those feelings. What is your favorite word? Fuck. Yes. A classic. Don't trust people who don't say fuck. Yes. That's some solid life advice you've already gotten, and the poet's not even up here yet. Least favorite. Limitation is in the eye of the beholder. Don't listen. Now please give a warm, warm welcome. I almost said for Edna St. Vincent Millay, for Naomi McCulloch.
I'm a little short, in case you hadn't noticed. I wanted to also say thank you. I'm honored to be here and to share the stage with everybody that got up here tonight, everybody that's a poet. Just in general, if you try to write poetry, you're already awesome. Because it's not if you're a scaredy cat or a coward. People don't get into poetry that way. So I thought that when I was putting my set list together, I thought, what do I do? The first poem is informally known as the orgasm poem, and I figured that I would start with that because until you've had an orgasm, you haven't actually gotten to the truth. So after the orgasm is when the truth starts. So we'll start here. All right. I was asked by him how it felt. It was not an easy answer. It feels like fields of flowers flinging open their petals like synchronized blessings to the sun. It feels like the moon succumbing to gravitational tugging until it sits high over the desert. It feels like the sticky heat of tar pits engulfing ancient beasts. It feels like the plates of the earth shifting gradually, breaking up Pangea. It feels like being laid out against the oranges, blues, and purples of a New Mexico sky. It feels like the steady bass of trains on tracks 300 miles away and approaching. It feels like the slow transformation of petrified trees floating thousands of miles away. It feels like the Columbian River rising up and over every dam in its path, as if my body is feeding the tributaries of the earth, a secret of the Amazon, a fertile blessing of the Nile. It feels like I'm a wave, a tsunami that will split your hull and leave you full of water at the bottom of the sea, like I am bringing succulent morsels to your shore, like I'm grounding rocks into pebbles, pebbles into grains of sand. When they mentioned the rules earlier, I was reminded that I broke my teeth in spoken word in Oklahoma City many years ago when I was traveling. And I spent about 6 months there hanging out with the poetry jam people and doing, like, kind of breaking into spoken word. And the place that we used to go to had a rule that if you felt moved by a poem, you said, damn. Damn. So it would really feel good to me. I haven't done spoken word in many years, and I'm really excited to be here tonight. So if you feel moved by something that I say, and you say, damn, I'm going to know it. So thank you. This next piece was inspired by, everybody remember the WTO came to Seattle in 1999? Okay, they also went to Sacramento in 2003, and I actually was at the Seattle March here in 1999 and at the Sacramento March in 2003, and It was a very different experience because the police officers had learned about what had happened in Seattle and how they were going to treat people that they met on the streets. And the day after the WTO came, there was a lot of images in the newspaper about people being cuffed and taken away. This poem was inspired particularly by an activist from the Royal Chicano Air Force in Sacramento. Her name was Maria. She was a 17-year-old woman. She was marching against the WTO, and they had her blasted all over the Sacramento newspapers the next day on the ground with her hands behind her back and a police officer's knee in her back. So this poem was inspired by Maria, and pretty much every person is willing to put themselves out there as an activist these days. Mediated images of bodies stretched and manipulated out of context by police officers tense to the core with purpose, bringing the situation under control. They are not bad guys, they are tools, like thumb screws and vice grips. The bodies stretched, arms pinned back, manipulated out of context, the images become tools, like setting an example and discipline. Images mediated out of context, of wings outstretched, only to be pinned back and bound by zealous vice grips, bringing a flight towards freedom out of context and swiftly under control, setting an example. Thank you. I look out over the crowd and I realize I might be not quite the oldest person in the room, but this poem was written in reference to In the Fall of 1995 is the title of the poem. Here we go. The faces on Mars, man, tells us there is a mystery. I stare at your face, both of our eyes mostly closed and glistening with marijuana crystals. Later, the voices of Wacko and Dot take over. We are entangled, and you and me meant to pull out. Instead, there was a coming in. Like a late summer tropical flood, out of character, unexpected. It was familiar, but distant at the same time. I can't recall the mystery described by the faces on Mars, man, but I have a note I made that night. It says, in fourth dimensional space, the 19.5 gravity point of energy of the planets feeds the sun through the vortex. This is our only reminder, this note, of the baby that we did not carry. On a lighter note. Goddamn magical love fruits, budding up and preparing to strike amnesia and blindness to those who should know better. And those believing that only make their condition more laughable. But it doesn't. Love is this way, the switching tail of a contrary feline, making the gross into tender sweetness, as to turn the idea of a heart bursting from a nightmare into a rhapsodic metaphorical ravings, swallowing exhalations, mingling saliva, demolish all logic and philosophy, entreating with each captured breath to the muses instead for theatrical lighting, dramatic pauses, meaningful glances, and a flurry of costume to remove. Magical fucking love dust, sprinkling from every seam and crinkle, swirling into the eyes and nostrils, steaming from heated bodies, the details surrounded by fog, dilating pupils, quickening of pulse, and the fumbling naked, trapped in this state beyond all recognizable usefulness, surrendered to the instinct and this love. like I'm going a little fast. Am I going a little fast?
You're great.
All right, awesome. All right. This poem was inspired actually by a dream. I woke up and wrote it almost immediately after the dream. It's very, very rare, but it was an awesome kind of insight into my brain. I don't know if that's useful to you or not, but you know. The elegant solution presented itself in the usual way, via the internal ocular projector of dream time. Flicker and stutter, the scene starts. Myself as the instructor, close up on my hand, the image replays, then even a closer perspective on my hand. The hand smoothly writing on a whiteboard in confident strokes. Flicker, stutter, flick. My voice over begins. This isn't a problem of the mind. This is a problem of physics. The hand is drawing a large U-shaped. The voice continues. It's about the relative speed required. The hand adds a circle inside the U-shape, just above the line. To keep the object in motion, the question we are dealing with here is, while the hand adds motion arrows indicating the directional flow of energy into the U-shape, then underneath the circle and back up and out of the U-shape, and then another motion arrow inside the circle, indicating the flow of energy to be moving in the opposite direction as the energy outside the circle. Flicker, stutter, flick, 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 flick. Back to the drawing board. Clean and unmarked. The hand again gracefully moves the pen across the whiteboard. And I hear myself say, this isn't a problem of the mind. This is a problem of physics. The circle spins against the current of arrows floating under it. As you can see, the relative speed of the object is a much higher rate than the current of energy moving it, which is causing an imbalance at the center of this object. The question we're dealing with is how to slow the object enough for alignment without stopping it or throwing it further out of balance. And when I shuddered awake, my first thought was that it was too bad my doctor is not a physicist also. This is a short little love poem. There is more to this than you and I. While the planets and stars dance their time in eons, this singularly unique moment is only ours, and it will pass. It has no meaning outside of us. The imprint in my mind of your hand touching my face, this is a private thing. And our dance will feel for all the world like our own private thing. But when it is over, it will not be eons, just one breath. Then there will be other bodies to take up our steps, and the dance that we danced will be their own. This is my last poem. Aww. Oh my God, I love you guys. This poem was actually inspired by a question. I got up out of bed from my girlfriend. I, kind of got my arm out from underneath her, and I went out onto the porch and smoked a cigarette, and I was thinking, God, if I was God, if we're all God, if we're all expressions, why would I, as God, ever choose to be a slave? I'm not really quite sure, but this poem has haunted me for years, and this is the poem that came out of that question. I am the captain of a slave ship, plotting in drunken discourse the ways and means of keeping freedom free, preventing mutiny, spinning yarns fat with fear, fibrous fuel woven into Jolly Rogers, and warriors like Toussaint, who breathe fire at white heat, baptizing the lions on the island of Haiti, who know that freedom has always been free. I am each slave, packed tightly like flint, jostling in silence, retching, in labor, wearing shackles, loosing child and placenta between bound feet into pools of shit and piss. I am love, whispering sparks into powder kegs, with assurances that love is perfect. It cannot be bound or desecrated. 2. I am the goddess of creation, a bringer of order to chaos, manifesting matter from the truth in my womb, Spider Woman spinning intentions as they are spoken, dreams become breath, the space between breath and illumination. I am that. I am a slave on a ship of slaves, and I am also Kali, with my foot down, on the treadle of a spinning wheel, threading fat Buddhas through the eye of a needle. I am the master, washing my own feet from Kuan Yin's overflowing waters. I am a slain white buffalo calf, resurrected as my executioner, my greatest teacher, filled my chest with a shotgun blast. His tiny leaden apples fed me the knowledge of life everlasting. 3. I am a slave ship, walking on water, my belly engulfed in flames. I am freedom, incarcerated by my own idea of myself. I am freedom, freed by my own idea of myself. 4. The captain of a slave ship plots in drunken discourse the ways and means of keeping freedom free, preventing anarchy. I am a slave packed tightly in like gunpowder. I am that flint, sparking mutiny, my destiny to strike, to be stricken, and so on. The plot thickens, with drippings of pig fat on collards, with whippings on children in collars sold for pennies on the dollar, who in time grow to be a scholar made free, rarely taken seriously by the culture at large, who write history, turning away guiltily, packing it away into dusty boxes under cobwebbed eaves. Those blood-toothed boxes, ever free to disagree with we and who we will be. 5. I am freedom, blowing the attics down with 3 deep breaths from my solar plexus, the nexus that birthed this, blessed it, and hasn't been to rest yet. It is still in the beginning. There is no way to resist the tide that binds, knotted in the middle of us, and unraveling our frayed ends. It seems unsafe to discuss this, except in rhymes of ancient fires that are still burning in our southern parts, still breaking our hearts, still pausing. All starts down the road rarely taken, where faith is shaken and stirred and then is risen, where free hearts and minds are lured to lead themselves from this prison. Thank you.